Let's talk some edge rushers on a mock draft Monday.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yes, everybody. We are back with another week of Locked On Lions, everybody, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a President's Day, Monday, February 17th, and a Tuesday, February 18th. Matt Derry with you. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody, and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Lions today for a Monday is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets, $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Hope everybody had a great weekend, shoveling snow blowing, whatever you did. It was cold, a lot of snow, but we made it. We had a new week of Locked On Lions here. 5 shows this week. We're going to be chasing down our buddy Damian Parson, who hosts the Locked On NFL Draft Show along this very network. We'll get him on at some point this week, working on a few other things as well. But it is a mock draft Monday in the off season. Once we get through the Super Bowl, once we get ready for the draft, we got free agency first, we got the combine first, but each and every Monday, we'll give you a mock draft and we'll discuss where that mock draft is going. We'll do that coming up on today's show. Also, I mentioned Friday about this whole quarterback thing and how there, you Googled Jared Goff and some wacky website had Jared Goff being traded by the Lions to the New York Jets, which was absolutely outrageous. But, it's funny. I was watching a Instagram video this weekend. Andrew Siciliano, our buddy, friend of the show, of course, voice of the Cleveland Browns, is on the NFL Network for a long time, does a bunch of different NFL podcasts. He was talking about all the different quarterbacks that are going to be moving this offseason. Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jameis Winston. A lot of teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks. And it just made me think over the weekend about how lucky we are that we've got our guy here in Jared Goff. And if you missed Friday's show, go back and check it out, where I discussed Googling Jared Goff, and some whacked out website with this woman wrote an article about how the Jets are going to be trading for Jared Goff. That is never happening. That is not happening. There is going to be a lot of quarterback movement this offseason, but not involving, thank goodness, our Detroit Lions. An Aidan Hutchinson update. We will get you that today. Vegas odds have the Lions near the top for Cooper Kupp. Why? I don't get it. I continuously do not understand that. We will discuss that today. And also, a call of the day is one of our everydayers. Shout out to our everydayers that watch and listen to the podcast daily. One of our everydayers checks in today on call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, just go to www.speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Keep it about a minute or under and leave us a voicemail. And if we like it, if I like it, we'll play it as our call of the day right here on Locked On Lions. First weekend we had this past weekend without football. So I hope everybody survived it. I know we got the UFL coming up, the Michigan Panthers. Shouts to my guy, Jeremiah Hergott, PR man extraordinaire for the Panthers, but it still won't stop us from talking about the Lions and mock draft Monday. Let's do that out of the chute here today. Seen a lot of mocks already. We've talked about it, right? Everybody believes, most people believe, that Brad Holmes at number 28, and by the way, the Lions general manager, will be on Local 4 tomorrow morning at 6:30 with Rhonda Walker. I've been seeing a lot of commercials in regards to this Brad Holmes exclusive with Rhonda Walker. So we'll have to maybe recap that tomorrow. Speaking of Channel 4, by the way, and for those of you that follow me on the Twitter machine, you would have seen this last night. I'm watching the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special. I've been watching my wife and I watched the Red Carpet Show at 7. Then it came on at 8. We're watching this entire thing. All right. 50 years of Saturday Night Live. The show is, pretty legendary. Last night's show was okay. Some of the ones on Peacock, the SNL music special, some of the others have been great. Last night's show was fine. It was okay. Eddie Murphy being back on last night was amazing, and doing Tracy Morgan was incredible. The impersonation was so spot on. But Local 4 last night at 11:15 or whatever it was, there's one more segment left. It was going to be Paul McCartney and then the goodbyes. Just completely cuts off the SNL 50th anniversary and goes to news. Like, what are you doing? The show's not over. It was like the Heidi game all over again. So I hopped on the old Twitter sphere and sent them a little message like, hey, Local 4, what are you doing? It was crazy. Anyway, Brad Holmes is going to be on Local 4 tomorrow. I don't even know what I was talking about. Lions. A lot of people believe that for this draft, Holmes is going to be looking at defensive tackles, edge rushers, and maybe another offensive lineman or two. All right. Now, if Tim Patrick doesn't come back as a number 3 receiver, maybe they look at receiver also. But we know this, the Lions are going to need some help and making some additions on that defensive line. So Tim Twentyman of DetroitLions.com did his first mock draft 1.0 today on the Lions website at DetroitLions.com. Let's do this before we get to the Lions at 28. Let me just give you the Tim's top 5. Tim does a great job covering the Lions. We've had him on the show before. Tim has Tennessee at number 1, taking edge rusher out of Penn State, Abdul Carter, best player on the board. Cleveland at number 2, Travis Hunter, the wide receiver cornerback from Colorado. Giants at 3, Cam Ward, quarterback Miami. New England at number 4, Will Campbell, the big offensive tackle from LSU. And Jacksonville at number 5, taking Mason Graham, the Michigan Wolverine defensive tackle. Shedeur Sanders, by the way, in the Twentyman mock, going to the Raiders at number 6 and playing for Pete Carroll. So Lions picking 28th in the first round. As we know, because of their 15-2 record. Tim Twentyman has the Lions at number 28 in the DetroitLions.com mock draft 1.0. Tim has the Lions selecting edge rusher Mike Green out of Marshall. Twentyman writes, quote, getting Aidan Hutchinson back next season will be huge for this defense, but they need to continue to add talent and depth opposite him. Green, 6'4", 248, is a gifted pass rusher who recorded 17 sacks and 3 forced fumbles last season for the Thundering Herd. Tim adds Boston College's Donovan Ezeruwaku could be interesting as a Sam linebacker prospect here too. Twentyman adds, quote, the Lions could use help at edge rusher, interior offensive line, cornerback, and the Sam linebacker spot, end quote. I think the Lions have a lot of linebackers, and I'm interested in seeing if Derek Barnes comes back or not from injury and if he's re-signed. But Tim Twentyman going with Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. Now, we've had a couple of different people that were down at the Senior Bowl on this very program the last couple of weeks. Jeff Risdon from the Lions Wire. We talked to Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points, and both those guys raved about Mike Green. Here's the thing. Brad Holmes has always kind of gone for the bulkier, heavier, bigger defensive ends like Hutchinson and defensive tackles. He likes versatility. Levi Onwuzurike this year played some edge rusher. Josh Paschal's a bigger guy. The Lions don't usually go for those sort of taller, svelter a word? But you know what I'm talking about. Kind of those outside linebacker build types as opposed to edge rusher types. Mike Green is not a big dude. He's tall, he's 6'4", and he can run, but he's not bulky. And the concern with him is against the run and how well he'll do on the interior when someone's running between the guard and the tackle. Can he move people around and make a play? But to me, Mike Green is the best edge rusher in this draft. And if he somehow falls to number 28, there's a lot of good players in this draft. All right. And there's a ton of edge rushers and D tackles, but Mike Green would be awesome. I know it was the MAC. I know it was Marshall, but he had a whale of a game against Ohio State earlier this year when Marshall played at the Horseshoe, and Ohio State just went on to win the national championship. So edge rusher opposite of Aidan Hutchinson, Green sitting at 28 would be a thumbs up and a no-brainer for me. I think that would be fantastic for the Lions if that was coming to fruition. Now, don't forget, as far as in the division, Houston picks 24. Twentyman has them taking Walter Nolan, the big D tackle from Ole Miss, who had a really good Senior Bowl. And Twentyman has Green Bay taken Azariah Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State. Where does he have the Bears going? The Bears are picking in 10th. Tyler Booker, offensive lineman from Alabama. Look, we all know. If the Bears are taking offensive lineman at number 10, then there should be an investigation. So, Twentyman going with Mike Green for the Lions at 28. That is a thumbs up for me. I can tell you that without any question about it. All right, video posted today on Aidan Hutchinson's social media, and it is good news. Good news, Clark. We'll tell you about that coming up next, right here on a Monday. Locked on Lions. And Locked on Lions today brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. Coming out back from All-Star Weekend, we got games coming up later on this week. And there's no better place to get in on NBA action than on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel's live betting feature is great because it keeps every moment of a game exciting. Want to place money on the second half, the first half, player props. You can do all of that on FanDuel. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for checking us out, everybody. Wherever you get your podcast, Locked on Lions for a Monday. Don't forget to check out Scotty on Locked on Tigers, Koo on Locked on Pistons, and of course, our man B Fish on Locked on Red Wings as well. Your teams and all of your teams every single day. And Jake Reitman does a great job on the Locked on Sports Detroit postcast. So like after the next Pistons game, Jake goes live there. After the Wings games, Jake goes live there. So check all of that out with our man, Jake Reitma. All right. Good news today. It made the rounds and everybody saw it. Aidan Hutchinson posted on social media on both his Instagram, the House Hutch, and Aidan Hutch 97, a video of him shirtless with shorts on and some sneakers running. That's right, running pretty much full speed or close to it inside the Lions indoor facility today in Allen Park. Aidan Hutchinson is running again. He posted the video earlier today with the caption, if I could find it, of, quote, "got a blast." All right. So again, 5 weeks into last season, Aidan Hutchinson was on his way to winning Defensive Player of the Year. He had 7.5 sacks. He was doing it all. And then he fractured his tibia and his fibula and, was lost for the year. Now we sit here on February 17th, and he's running pretty close to full speed. You could tell there's a little bit of a hitch in his giddy up, as they say, but running at the Lions training facility, close to full speed, not fully, but close to full speed, is just a great sign. And we could sit here and talk about the draft and free agency and everything else that the Lions are doing. But the heart and soul of this team, especially on defense, is Aidan Hutchinson. And getting him back to as close to full strength as possible after you broke 2 mammoth bones in your leg, is vital to this team's success. The Lions made it to 15 wins without him this year. I'm not going to say it's a miracle, but he's their best defensive player. And I know that there's a theory out there that, well, the Lions can just outscore teams. And the Lions' identity has always been their offense the last couple of years with Goff and Gibbs and Amon-Ra and Laporta and Montgomery and the offensive line. And that's true. Right? The Lions have had an unbelievably explosive offense for really 2.5 years under Ben Johnson. And I think it will continue. But if you can get number 97 back healthy on the field, disrupting the other team's quarterback, all right, that just takes so much pressure off of everybody else on this defense. And I don't think they're going to trade for Myles Garrett. I'm not even sure the Browns are going to deal Myles Garrett. And yes, the Lions are going to be in the mix. I was watching over the weekend Bill Barnwell on SportsCenter. Was it Friday or Saturday morning? He was going through the three teams he think have the best chance to get Myles Garrett the best fits. The first one was the Lions. Then he had Washington. Then he had Philadelphia in getting Garrett. People believe it's a good fit, and it is, because you put Garrett on one side and Hutchinson on the other. It would be an unbelievable dominating force up front, and it would be the Lions going for it. And I would be for it, as long as you're not mortgaging the entire future of this team. But Hutchinson running is a huge step. And I know that he had said if the Lions were in the Super Bowl, he would have been ready to come back. It's obvious watching this video today that he would not have been. There's too much of a limp still running, that throwing him out in the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago would have been a massive mistake. But him working out, him running, it's a great sign. They don't need him to be back until September. So we got about 8.5 months here. But that's the guy that kind of just stirs the drink, is the heart and soul of this defense, and they got to get back. Him and Ali McNeil. Get those guys healthy and back, and the sky is going to be the limit for this defense. Now led, of course, by former linebackers coach, now turned defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard. All right, a bunch of people sent me this today. It was on the Sideline Report website. We love to give them a shout out from time to time. Our man Brad Berryman over there posted this today. But odds from Vegas in regards to wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who, of course, the Rams have said they are going to trade this offseason. A lot of smoke. First of all, the Rams have said they're trading Kupp. They don't want to pay him, and they love him. And Cooper, it's time for you to go. There's a lot of rumors about Matthew Stafford being traded to the Giants and all of that. And, of course, as Stafford's wife on her podcast, Old Bit Siren, blaring, is talking about how unhappy she is, whatever with her. But according to the latest odds from Vegas, all right, this is courtesy of both Sideline Report and New York Post. The Denver Broncos are the favorite to land the 31-year-old wide receiver at plus 450. It was just a couple of weeks ago that the Lions were at plus 800. Now, Detroit is down to plus 550, second best odds to land Cooper Kupp if you're betting on this nonsense in Vegas. So the Lions' odds have surged to grab Cooper Kupp. Why on earth? And I get it. I understand it. Cooper Kupp played with Jared Goff. Cooper Kupp was drafted by the Rams when Brad Holmes was there. All right. I get all of that. But the Lions are not trading for him. Why would you possibly put $100 down on something like this? Why would the Lions are going to make a trade? It's for defense. Yes, the St. Brown brothers on their pile. Oh, we'd love to have Cooper. Would you put Cooper Kupp on the Lions offense? Sure you would. But you're not trading draft picks for him. You have him already in Amon-Ra, the same type of player. Commanders are third best odds at plus 650. Patriots also tied for third at plus 650 with the Chiefs. So Commanders, Patriots, Chiefs, Steelers plus 750. We know the Steelers need receivers. Buffalo Bills at plus 950. Round out the top 5 or 6 there. I don't understand it. And again, I get it. There's a need for another receiver because Tim Patrick's a free agent. I still think Khalif Raymond will be back too. Jamison Williams, the Lions have to decide on his 5th-year option and everything else. Cooper Kupp is a tremendous player, but he's on the opposite side of 30, and the Rams are going to want a couple of draft picks, and Brad Holmes is not going to give those up unless, to me, it's for something much bigger of a need than a wide receiver. But yet, Lions have the second best Vegas odds to land Cooper Kupp, which I don't understand. And again, wide receiver might become a need, all right? Maybe there's a team out there that does what the Broncos did with Josh Reynolds last year and offers maybe a multi-year deal. I don't know what the Tim Patrick free agent, buffet is going to look like. I don't know how many teams are going to step up, with their tray and go after him. I loved the fit this year. The one thing I loved about Tim Patrick, that dude made clutch catches and that dude blocked down the field. He came into that locker room, seamlessly fit in, and did nothing but help the team. So I'm hoping that the Lions bring him back. Are there bigger priorities as far as bring back players, as far as their own free agents? Yes, we've talked about it. Kevin Zeitler, I want back. Carlton Davis, I want back. I wouldn't mind Onwuzurike back, but it's got to be the right price. Love to have Tim Patrick back, but you can't re-sign all of your guys. We know that. So we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, coming up next, we will do our call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, go to our SpeakPipe voicemail system at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. That's a speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. All right, it's a Monday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Matt Derry with you. Again, more draft talk this week. We are chasing down Damian Parson, who who runs and hosts the Locked On NFL Draft Show. If you've not heard Damian on that show, it does a very, very, very good job. All right, we're going out of the country, out of the state. Our man Ben is checking in this week as our call of the day. Always love hearing from our audience and our fans. You guys are the reason why I do this, and the network is doing so well. It's because of the listeners and the viewers, of course, on our YouTube page as well. But let's check in with Ben. He is our call of the day.
Hey, Matt. My name is Ben, and I'm a longtime listener of your show. I'm currently stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona for the Military Intel Captain's Career Course. I remember being in college back in 2018, listening to all the fantastic Matt Patricia coverage. We can't forget the Jelani Tavai era. The run by me goodbye era. My question is, do you think we're overly focused on improving our defense this offseason while neglecting the offensive line? While many of us viewed as a team strength, it's aging quickly and showed vulnerabilities late last season. The Kevin Zeitler Band-Aid is great, but might not be good enough for a deep playoff run this year. How should Brad Holmes tackle this issue then? Really appreciate your insight and love the show. Thanks.
All right, so there's Ben, and I misspoke. He is in the country, but he's out in Arizona. Thank you for your service, Ben. Fantastic call, and really, really enjoyed that. Yes, jog by me goodbye. It's what we used to nickname Jelani Tavai. Jelani Tavai has actually turned into a decent player for the Patriots. As crazy as that sounds, he was god-awful here. As far as the question about offensive line, I do believe Brad Holmes will sign some sort of veteran offensive lineman, whether it's re-signing Kevin Zeitler or getting somebody else in here. Jeff Risdon has pointed this out at Lions Wire, and we've mentioned it on the program before. The Lions left guard situation with Graham Glasgow on the back half of last year was not good. Graham graded out very poorly at PFF, did not have a great playoff game against the Commanders, got beat a bunch of times. But Christian Mahogany, the Lions' 6th-round pick from this past year out of BC, played really well when he got the opportunity to fill in this year due to some injuries. He played some right guard when Zeitler was out. He played some left guard when Glasgow was out. So I don't disagree with Ben there about the offensive line. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's aging and getting worse. I still believe Penei Sewell is an absolute stud at right tackle. Frank Ragnow at center is incredible. If Zeitler is back, whether he's 35, 36 years old, that's a guy that's still graded out very well and was very, very good at right guard. Very good. Question's going to be, does Brad want to give him multiple years? And what's the market going to look like? What will Chicago offer? Will they try to swipe him away? Will Ben Johnson try to do that? Will Aaron Glenn try to do that? We'll have to wait and see. Taylor Decker did not have a great year at left tackle, but ended up making the Pro Bowl, of course, and was added on late. So we'll see. I still love the Lions offensive line, and I love the depth piece with Mahogany. They also believe that Giovanni Manu is going to play a role at some point where they wouldn't have traded up into the 3rd and 4th round last year to get him. So, it's up in the air. Am I drafting an offensive lineman at 28? That's all going to depend on what happens at free agency. Number one, does Brad Holmes like what's out there in terms of free agent offensive linemen? Like Trey Smith from the Chiefs, who was a Pro Bowler, is going to demand a lot of money. I don't know if that's a contract that the Lions are going to go anywhere near. But if you want to bring Zeitler back and he wants to come back and maybe gives you a nice team-friendly 1-year deal or 2-year deal, you sign up for that. We never talked about Kevin Zeitler throughout the year because we didn't have to. He was just solid at right guard and blew people away, especially in the ground game. I hope he's back. That's not a guy you want to see go to Chicago to help the Bears fortify their very shaky offensive line. The Bears' O-line is terrible. You want Zeitler here. But I think the Lions have bigger needs right away in the draft and in free agency with edge rusher and defensive tackle than I would say right away on the offensive line. Now, again, they just gave Glasgow 3 years and $20 million going into last year, and he didn't perform. Do they still believe he's a starter? Do they believe it was just a down second half and he'll bounce back? Do they want Mahogany at left guard? Do they want Mahogany at right guard? These are all questions that Brad Holmes certainly will have to answer in the coming weeks. And we're going to find out in free agency next month when that gets going and who the Lions are targeting. Again, and I saw a little bit of this in the commercials where Holmes was talking to Rhonda Walker. There are certain players the Lions target that they believe are Lions, that they believe they value more than anybody else. All right, there may be guys out there that are higher graded at PFF or better on the Lions board, but if they're not hard workers, they're not going to fit the culture. They're not Dan Campbell type of guys. Those are not guys that Brad Holmes is going to point to bring to Detroit. He's just not. All right, that'll do it for a Monday edition of Locked On Lions. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. We'll do it every Monday. A little mock draft on Monday right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Stay warm. It's going to get cold this week. We are back again tomorrow and the rest of the week with fresh shows right here on Locked On Lions.